TNFro with Reading. How I'm your host, Felicia Baxter. In this episode, I basically am kind of acting like a grumpy cat, and I am going into what is becoming my fussier part of my episode or my podcast called WTF America, Shenanigans, and people saying dumb-ish. I will read from you or just talk about my virtual reality vacation to Venice, new global flight plans, and also talk about this nerd is reading, watching, and writing. And I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I've enjoyed creating it. Thanks. So, welcome back to the episode. I started this as part of my podcast to vent about ridiculous, absolute, asinine things people say and do every day. I think it's okay. It is not okay, seriously. If you don't say dumb-ish or you don't do dumb-ish, I won't drag you. All of these people that have made this list and organizations really need to be glitter bombed or ship a bag of gummy penises for real. For, well, being jackasses on a grand scale. That's where I started, and I'm glad I'm an affiliate of Ship a Bag of Dicks because y'all are crazy. And actually, you can ship these items anonymously by going to shipabagofdicks.com and use my promo code TNFro got jokes or TNFro at checkout to get 15% off of your order or shipping. But I digress. Just in a previous 48 hours when I wrote this part of the podcast, I had heard and seen a bunch of dumb crap. Chump 45 visited a Ford plant that's making ventilators, and it's questionable. They were questioning if he was going to wear a mask. Why are you expecting a sociopath to follow the rules? And why is this part of the news cycle? This is not new. He's been taking unproven Plaquenil that we now know that's associated with fatal arrhythmias. Actually, we've always known that. But I doubtful, even though he wants to do this dumb ass unproven prophylactic against COVID, I doubt if they're giving him the real thing. I think it's placebo because we will not be that lucky. And the risk is just not that. It's not worth it. Because they will be blaming his fatal arrhythmia on attack by the Democrats. But who cares at this point? There are unemployment scams. To get money to the masses in some places like Michigan, it's really easy to scam the system. You can still work and draw an unemployment track, evidently, because of lack of oversight and no checks and balances. They ask very few questions, and it appears there's no verification of your lack of employment. And people are actually bragging about this on social media. Kroger hasn't paid for thousands of its workers. The masses are, for the most part, respected, but not always. We still get these pictures of guys rubbing their faces on store workers and a security guard that was recently shot in Detroit by two dumbasses for being asked to put on a mask. And mask guidance is not forced conformity. Evidently, anytime anyone or someone thinks that they're being forced to do something, they want to rebel. And why is that? The psychology of resistance to wear a mask and social distancing, adhering to these rules may feel like to some a forfeiture of their freedoms. Okay, you're free to be a dumbass, but you have no right to kill everyone else. Or force first responders to care for you when you're no insurance having ass because you are a Trump supporter that has decimated the ACA has to get treatment and then rehab because you're so wiped out if you survive this plague. All you had to do was stay at home or wear a freaking mask. I can't even get into this. Trump now will pull us out of a major arms recon treaty. The goal of the treaty, which was entered and went into force 2002, is to avoid conflict and encourage trust between participating nations. More than 1,500 flights have been conducted under the treaty, but Russia has restricted flights over certain areas. Exiting the treaty is expected to strain relations with Moscow and upset European allies and some members of Congress. More BS from someone else to clean up. Again, obvious in his limited understanding of anything, the treaty is more than getting images we could get from Google Earth. It's about cooperation. There are cracks in the code of Elon. I had no idea he was downplaying the dangers of the virus. And he said he kept reporting false claims about how children are essentially immune. Now that we got over 200 deaths from that multi-system inflammatory disease that kind of looks like Kawasaki's. So now they're looking at him, his own supporters are looking at him like side eye. I've also read about the self-proclaimed Germany, this dude that has set up a reverse Wakanda, and he proclaimed himself like an egotistical Napoleon on YouTube and built hundreds of millions of euros from Germany and several other like-minded right-wing citizens to invest in this new Neue Deutschland. And now finally he's gone, the money's gone, and there's no product. And they're now just asking after a decade, where is the money? Really, Germany? Bist du wirklich so dumm? And that's German for, are you really that stupid? I want to end this rant on a high note, though, because in my research of utter ridiculous statements and general shenanigans, I've discovered other sources of reading, and I'm able to fact check some dubious statements and everything else. So even though people want to dumb down or oversimplify things or just flat out lie, I still have the ability to seek the truth and expand my fund of knowledge. And that's why writing and researching this part of the show is so fascinating to me. And I want to thank you for listening to my rant. So I actually wrote this at the beginning of the week as an homage to my virtual reality vacation to Venice. I spent most of my Monday creating an experience using Google Earth. No, strolling the streets of Venice using that platform is not the same as experiencing the energy of the people in the streets and in cafes, selecting fresh ingredients for seafood and linguine at the Rialto Market in Venice. But while you are in lockdown, you can use these platforms like Google Earth projects to explore new locations all over the world without increasing your carbon imprint. They've noticed that due to COVID in Ground Zero in Italy, the water of the Venice Canal and lagoon are clearer. Nature is making a comeback. There's pictures of swans and porpoises and even jellyfish. And I would really like to go back there before humans muck it all up again. I'm way too bougie, but I'll have to stay at a five-star hotel like the I Do Principe and book a junior suite that is near the San Marco Plaza overlooking the canal, grabbing a bite of food at the Ristorante alla Congelia. I hope I know I hacked that name up before turning in the night. I know I can't cover that much ground, but I would probably have to rent a Segway or a classic Vespa and tote my big butt all over Venice to see all I want to see, from all of the churches to replica museum dedicated to replicas of Master Da Vinci's work, to explore Gothic churches like the Basilica de Santi Giovanni at Poalo and all of the artwork that's contained within, to buy Murano tiles for my above ground pool and for my house here in the States. I would love to visit St. Mark's Square and visit the cathedral there. And at any other the millions, seemingly millions of churches peppered throughout the city. Find a place to enjoy sardine and crostini at our Botigan near the Ponte Treviso and sip espresso while seeing the gondolas skim the canal. Have homemade pasta and gnocchi at the Osteria Boccadari Venezia. But who is among us is not obsessing about or dreaming of the return of time and planning trips to fill up our passbooks? I still daydream like other former frequent travelers with the massive accrual of miles who can sit back in my upgraded seats waiting on the warm hand wipes and free Jack and Coke. Sometimes a trip is more exciting than the actual destination because of a comfortable seat and definite difference in service and food between first class and coach. But it's not safe to travel at this time. COVID is spread through surfaces and air contaminated with this virus. We cannot be packed in airlines like sardines that I want to eat in Venice. While planes are grounded, what are the major airlines doing to ensure safety? I suggest a redesign of the whole check-in process. With increased security, you may have to arrive early to ensure your process as you proceed on your plane. But the process has to include temperature checks, facial coverings mandatory to get on and to be on and remain on unless you are in your individual compartments. And take your disinfection playbooks from Reagan DCA. Airlines can be better designed to conform to the social distancing. For example, retrofitting the CRJ 900 by taking out every other aisle, widening the seats, and putting plexiglass partitions in it, like JetBlue has done in their mid series. Should be no more first class on the shorter runs, but for the longer runs, expanding the single suites on the 787 and placing these individual suites on even the CRJ, the larger CRJ 700s or 900s. Having personalized suite with my own air supply and isolation from the masses is necessary if you're going to justify that cost premium. I'll pay $5,000 for that flight with all the PTO and money that I'm able to save. This is how I want it to look, minus the blonde hair of this chick in the photo from my blog posting from Tennessee to Venice after this pandemic. I do not have access to private jets and I see myself flying commercially for years to come, but I will not fly anywhere if I don't feel safe. I want to explore this world before it goes all away or before I'm toes up in a casket. The modifications needed to ensure safety of air travel is greatly needed. It is a new day. What are the airlines going to do to get us to Venice? My plan also is to update or have a sequel to this segment. I plan on maybe taking a walk through Hong Kong or Taiwan or the Far East again before that. part of the world pops off. I'm just excited about exploring those worlds, um, even though I'm so confined due to COVID. I don't think we need to lose sight of our brothers of another mother from across the world and enjoying all the God given treats and nature that we can enjoy at this time. And I hope you will tune back in and find out where my next virtual trip will be. Thanks. This part of the episode is why I started the podcast in general. What I'm reading, watching, and writing. And it is my honor to be able to share this in general with the audience. I've just finished this piece for my blog. This nerd is reading, watching, and writing, and this piece in itself was written in between sips of medium roast coffee from Writer's Block. Writer's Block, the coffee itself has great chocolate aroma and low acidity, but it's kicked to keep me focused as I write and read this beautiful Sunday morning and prep for the publication of this podcast. So if you will, you can navigate to writersblockcoffee.com and use my promo code TNFro is reading to get 10% off your purchase, but I digress. I recently subscribed to The Atlantic, and the April 2020 is filled with many great reads. In particular, Michael Pollan's of revealing the big business of commercial food production, in particular meat processing, how meat processing was killing us. And now he's talking about coffee being the dark legal drug. He says coffee owes its global ascendancy to a fortuitous evolutionary accident. The chemical compound that plant makes to defend itself against insect happens to alter human consciousness in ways we find desirable, making us more energetic and industrious, and notably better workers. That chemical is caffeine, which is now the world's most popular psychoactive drug, used daily by 80% of humanity. And that is a statement never so true said. As I said, and I started out the show, Writer's Block Coffee, I'm actually an affiliate of it, and I am one of the greatest, I think, customers. This has led to the decimation of Native Americans to force its cultivation in El Salvador, to the loss of the rainforest in South America. They said that climate scientists estimate that at least half of the acreage now producing coffee, or even greater proportion in Latin America, will be unable to support the plant by 2050, making coffee one of the crops most immediately endangered by climate change. Capitalism may be killing the golden goose. George Packard has a great piece on how COVID revealed inept leadership. In his April article, also in The Atlantic, he says everyone underestimated the readiness of a large number of Americans to accept and even relish he's speaking about Trump, contempt for democratic norms and basic decency. And that's so true. They've accepted it, propped it up, and made it legal for him to act like a sociopathic fool. But I digress. Also, Olga Kazan's supports leaning into being a weirdo. And it's easier to be a weirdo if you already have an independent self-concept. Weirdness has its perks, but you can't be weird forever. And also, I'm still reading Tolstoy. As I'm still trudging through one of the greatest works of Western literature, and I keep coming back to why is Tolstoy trying to talk us to death? In particular, well, me to death. I'm grateful to all of the time Miss Smith, my first grade remedial reading teacher, taught me, because it has allowed me to rapidly read or skim through hundreds of pages of prose to follow the becoming of a new Russian man and woman exemplified by Konstantin Levin and Kitty. But basically, in thousands of words and several plot points, Tolstoy seems to be attempting to chronicle a time or period in history rapidly ending. He does so in detail with a deeper understanding of the failings of humans and their redemptive power. Most of part three is all again about Anna, Vronsky, and Alexei, all of which I skimmed. I was more interested in Kitty's older sister, Dolly, who had so much potential, who was expressive, but the truth of her existence was wasted away, or it turned into herself due to her wayward husband and trying to take care of lots of young children. We meet up with a heartbroken Levin at his country estate where he goes and successfully finds himself. It is here he leads the most authentic life, without frills and base emotions and just the falsehood that seems to be rampant in Moscow and St. Petersburg. Part 5 is still peppered with the tortured nature of the demise of Anna and Alexei's relationship. It's very soap drama, of which I have no interest, but I honestly believe left to time they could have figured out how to move Russia seamlessly into the Industrial Revolution and how Russia could have become a greater power, even more so than England. Levin is portrayed as the man's man, gentleman farmer, shooting enthusiast. Part 4, we continue to see the remarkable evolution of Levin, and I need to get rid of that word. And he is still very much in love with Kitty. Nothing is secret in society. He is advised of Vronsky's failing to propose to Kitty, her subsequent breakdown, and then resolve. When Kitty returns to the country with her family, Levin is emboldened to renew his proposal to her to be married. At one of the many gatherings when even the sour Alexei Karenina was interesting, Levin, and this is from, I think this is page 447, knew she was listening to his words and that she was glad to listen to him. And this was only the only thing that interested him. His whole being was to be everything and worth the interest of this one person. This is whom the old Prince Sherbatsky wanted truly for his daughter, the deepest and most honorable of love and utmost respect for her. I have never loved anything or anyone that much, and I have never had the experience of protection and wanting of a parent for their child to know what the best for them and assuring it. But that's a whole other story. And furthermore, I spend a lot of time, especially on the weekends, um, watching as much great TV as I possibly can. I just realized that I did not say anything about the new Issa Rae movie that dropped on Netflix. Let's pause here for a second because I have to. It's as if Issa Rae and actually actors and actresses just like her are having their hot people or hot black people year again. I am firmly a HBO's Insecure stan. But before I get into that, I wanted to give a shout out to Crown Fried Chicken in Fayetteville. They make the best food, hot wings. Their chicken gizzards and some hot wings from Publix is how you should spend, or should be your finger food as you watch for whatever reason. That's how I watched it. Anyways, this next several shows this past weekend or last couple of weekends. And I just wanted to make a statement about the Murchison location. And they have proven that not everybody should be allowed to answer the phone. They were ghetto and rude and just so not helpful. But I ended up getting my gizzards and sweet potato pie. So who knows? I had this in my episode notes from last week, episode 5, the low key moving on, but I really didn't talk about it in my last week's episode. First, of course, the music is always sick, and I've actually have the updated Spotify. Um, link if you want to enjoy it and get your bop on. But I had to watch both of these episodes a couple of times because I had to think through some things. First, they seemed unfinished to me, and I think that is the whole point of this series because each episode builds on the next episode. Why would somebody from a small city or in my case rural uh, be, why does this work for me and why am I so interested in the larger city or LA of it, Inglewood, which is a suburb of LA. I like the characters, Issa and Molly's good friend Kelly, and how her interaction with Ahmad is completely freaking hilarious. Kelly shows up to the block party with a big dummy. He's really cute, easy on the eyes, but he's really stupid. And how Issa and Molly's relationship seems to have been built on shade, but it has really taken a noticeable left. There has always seemed, and I just realized that they have a lot of fun together. There's always a lot of talking, but there's not a lot of listening and exchange. They took it for granted that the other would fit seamlessly into their lives with no effort. And that's where their biggest mistake was. Everyone has the needy, messy friend, but both of these women are those people. They're both needy, they're both messy, but they don't want to admit it. This is probably one of the biggest events. It was like a family reunion, and even with the threat of guns destroying it all. I think Molly is salty because Issa pulled it off really without her. And it so much more that she pulled it off really without her. She didn't have, and it was like she got mad. Molly because she didn't give Issa permission to be successful. Wait, what? What? It was like she was not supposed to succeed because Molly said she wasn't supposed to succeed. And how selfish and crazy is that? And people kept giving her these reality checks, like the depressed Nathan. He just said, why don't you just live in the moment? This went from dream to reality, and you should be proud. And who didn't get their wobble on in the middle of the show? That was such fun. It was culminating to that moment. Molly offers her some raggedy wings as kind of like a peace offering, like that was supposed to make it okay. And then she pushes up against her like they were getting ready to go to blows. And then, as brilliantly as it started, it was a wrap. It was so dope until it really wasn't. This built in more to the part six, low key done. Uh, you find Issa processing the blow up of the event, but it has everyone looking for more. Um, the episode really should have been called Redemption because that's what Issa was trying to do the right thing. When her car gets declined, when she gives George a ride to his son's house, the paint and sip, where she hung out with the shadiest East Coast bridal party. It was a checklist of how to take advantage of somebody else unsuspecting, and she was wide open for that. And that is why I like this show, because of the music and the dope restaurants. The bar, even though it ended up being horrible, that bar with the tapas and those toppings, amazing. She basically discovers her own job as a cultural curator. They're gassing her up to drop her. Her mother is a complete nut, but admits not to wanting kids, which I think is so horrible. But she actually ends up getting what she needs, even though it kind of started off. It was sad that this woman that didn't really want her ends up being giving her just as much as she could give her. and giving her some really great advice too. And it ends with her turning away from her favorite Ethiopian food spot because she was not ready to confront or deal with Molly anymore, because I don't know how you can come back from someone calling you out at your event and being mad at you for being successful just because you didn't have their permission to be successful. I went into that, and I had watched when it premiered on Friday, Lovebirds with Issa Rae and Kamal Nanjiani. This is the most mismatched couple that actually works. It was supposed to drop in April, but of course we were all firmly in lockdown, so it went directly to streaming, and I think it actually was successful, and I think it's actually trending positively online now. And it was also just an all black weekend, because I segued into watching all of the Insecure, then I watched New Jack City. It was a reminder of a bygone era. A skinny iced tea, amazing music again, intro to Pookie the Crackhead, a young comic by the name of Chris Rock, and even a pre-Blade Wesley Snipes. The story is so far from my country ass existence, but the plot line of human frailty, failure, and redemption follows the band of thieves trying to be legitimate in such superficial trappings of the fast-paced, greedy society of New York City in the 80s and 90s. Nino Brown and his sidekick G Money, and if you think about it, all of CMB or the Cash Money brothers are a product of the underbelly of society, a perversion of success. Good must win, both Nino and G Money dying as violently as they lived. We, the audience, could not expect them to survive that destruction of their community. And lastly, in addition to doing a lot of writing on my blogs, and scripting the podcast, I actually, so as part of my writing capabilities, I did finish writing Hamilton Heights, and I registered on the WPA site. However, I've also recently submitted it to Script Reading Pro for a full overhaul because I want to submit it for Screencraft drama competition. I can't wait to see if my vision and voice of Kat, Sloper, Lavinia, and even Maurice Townsend rings clear. The they give you the option to have one of their script writers specialists uh, give you comments and some notes on the potential for your project. And with the initial assessment by Dash, I was able to, it made me feel better about expending more money in order to have it completely overwritten, because I want it to be as perfect as I can get it for the submission. And in his words, he says, "Thank you, Felicia, for sending over Hamilton Heights. I can see that you are a very inventive and soulful writer who thinks big and isn't afraid of doubling down on humanistic, character-driven drama. This is thematically striking piece with a skewed take on its given genre that makes it stand out. Additionally, you've managed to avoid many obvious tropes and keep the story trajectory largely unexpected. The general concept of the script shows great promise, and I could see it having potential commercial and critical appeal. I also found Kat to be spirited, spunky heroine who walks the beat of her own drum. Generally speaking, your visuals are striking and your scenarios intriguing. Your plot took several unexpected twists and turns, so I legitimately could not guess where it was headed at any given time. Lastly, you tackle the world of urban struggles, drugs, violence in a way that never veered into over-the-top melodramatic territory. On the whole, I think a good deal of your narrative works on a fundamental level, but there are a few issues I noticed which hold the script back from reaching the height of its potential. It would be helpful to go through the screenplay and tighten up, elevate certain elements, specifically as it pertains to the story, technical prose, logistics, and pacing. I'm excited with the opportunity this project can possibly give me, even if it is not even, oops. That's me. Oops. I'm excited with the opportunity this project can possibly give me, even if it's not even considered for the contest. I hope to be able to improve in screenwriting. I have so many ideas for straight to streaming. I just want to be given the chance to create something more than what I'm seeing now. So again, my commitment to possibly selling the script at trade and seeing something through that could entertain very much so, like Issa Rae's, her movies, as well as her series Insecure, and seeing it on a different level. Like my remake of The Heiress does that. And another idea that I'm working on right now, Nouveau Riche or Noir Nouveau Riche, I'm excited about bringing a potential audience or an audience a different take on different aspects of the Black experience. We get to see that the urban African American in Issa Rae's series, as well as the Harlem or even another type of urban Negro East Coast on my Hamilton Heights series. Why can't we see rich Black people more than sports stars and Robert Johnson's family? People very similar, to the Crazy Rich Asians. Why can't African Americans have that type of long old green? So that's why I've written the follow-up to Hamilton Heights. And I just want to learn how to tell the story so you can learn something and still be entertained by it. That's the whole how I see a concept of any documentary you see, any type of movie that I've recently watched. That is what I'm learning. I'm learning something about the culture, even the underbelly of the culture, as well as being entertained. And that's why it keeps my attention. I don't know how many people realize the reality of our condition. We are in a national international pandemic, but we still have to move on and go on with our normal lives. People have changed jobs, are stressed because of income, lack thereof. There are food deserts and insecurity, and parents still have to take on the responsibility of caretaker as well as the teacher of their children. These things are hard. Why are you trying to do it on your own? When I actually broached this question to someone, I think they got salty with me because I recognize that I'm not a trained psychotherapist, and I had an allergic reaction to psychiatry, my psychiatry rotation. But the need is real. That's why if you're struggling with depression or anxiety, please call 1-800-273-8255, which is available 24 hours a day. There's an online chat feature at suicide prevention on suicidepreventionhotline.org/chat/. And if vodka or some other substance is the problem, because you've been over imbibing in these days of lockdown, you can call 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357 for 24/7 help. There's also modalities like Headspace and Talkspace and Doctor on Demand, where you do not have to suffer in silence in the privacy of your car for the fractional cost of conventional therapy. This journey is way too hard I am not a psychotherapist, so please do not call me. I can't help you unpack the layers and layers of psychiatric pathology that you need that help from a trained professional. And don't forget to navigate to www.dalesangels.inc for all special offers and updates on nerd news. Drop me a line at TNFroisreading.com or even leave a 2-minute non-trolling voicemail at 423-463-0658. And I may even read your comments on air. And I thank you for listening. Have a great day.